Welcome to Tentative Title with Tim. This is a podcast about creativity, about process, about filmmaking, and about screenwriting. Welcome everybody back to the show. The last show of 2020. Now, to be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to do another episode for 2020, mostly because of the fact that due to the math, it rounded. My last episode was episode 30. It seemed like a great place to stop, a very even number. But it also felt right that I should probably do an episode just kind of wrapping up my experience in the year of 2020 and what's happened, this year. So here I am. I talked in the last one about, like seasons and stuff like that. And it just kind of seemed like one of those ideas where I was like, oh, I can have a podcast and I can have like seasons of a podcast. And, not really sure what that means or if it's a very like, it doesn't mean anything if it's, week to week. So I don't know why I was thinking that, but, here we are. So the issue at hand, the topic at hand is kind of looking back at this year. It's been a rough year. I've if you guys have been following the episodes, I've been doing more personal stories lately, just kind of working out some of the inner workings of my own mind, of my own thought process in this time. Trying to be creative, trying to stay productive, trying to stay positive, trying to just do something that could possibly help another human being. And that's not necessarily where I started at the beginning of the year. I mean, I hope that I had an attitude of being charitable, of trying to help other creatives as much as I could, especially other filmmakers, starting at the beginning of the year. And I think I was already in that place where I wanted to see other filmmakers succeeding. I wanted to see other writers succeed. I just wanted to like celebrate with other people who were getting things done, even when I felt like I wasn't getting very much done, or that my career was kind of stagnant, or not even like a career, just like the fact that I haven't even like leveled up to any kind of like status, I guess you could say, in the industry, and just feeling like just being an outsider for this entire time, that I just didn't I didn't feel like I fit in, or if I fit in, I only fit in with the the people who are kind of going their own way. And I think that's a lot of like where I land in a lot of my attitude when it comes to what I'm trying to make, is that I tend to want to go my own way. When people are really into something, I tend to wait. I tend to kind of like hold back excitement about certain things. That there were a lot of trends that happened over the last decade, that I just was not a part of, or I was kind of on the outside, kind of being a fan of, but not really like investing as much time as everybody else was. So so starting off the year, I was very much invested in writing. I was to this point still in post on my feature film, Look Into the Fire, being very frustrated with that process, and wanting to kind of take my creative journey into my own hands, and to just do things that I had the most control over, which at this point was writing. I can write. I don't have to rely on anybody to do it. I can make my own schedule. I can follow my bliss when it comes to stories I want to tackle. I can get these scripts done on my own deadline. And that's what I did for that's this process since 2017 has been me kind of trying to take hold of my creative destiny, because I felt like the big swings that I had taken up to this point were mostly out of my hands. And so, yeah, I started just writing. Wrote a novel for the first time, which, I still have to go through and edit it, and, like it's a very rough version of itself, but at least I wrote a first draft of it, and that is like a major milestone for me. And so yeah, I just kind of like that was the trajectory of where I was going. And then I started to really get into writing scripts with other people, or writing scripts at the request of actors who were looking for parts that they could really sink their teeth into. And so, I took a couple projects to do that. And that was a lot of fun. That was a way in which I could work myself back into being more collaborative with people, and to still kind of have a lot of say in what the story was, but also kind of keep it at arm's length, because I was writing it as a vehicle for someone else. And so it was really to fit who they are and what goal they had as an actor. So that was another kind of like avenue that I was going down at the beginning of 2020. And those were a lot of fun. They were challenging. They kept me accountable, because I would deliver drafts, and they would come back with notes about what they wanted to see, or where they thought the story should go, or what beats seemed false in the narrative. And so yeah, I felt like I was on a pretty good trajectory in terms of like my writing to kind of like open some doors further into the industry, while I was waiting for my feature film to get done. But then the pandemic hit, and during this time I was working at a local theater, not movie theater, but like stage theater. I was building sets. I was, it was a lot of carpentry, a lot of, just like putting things together, and it kind of like filled that part of the physicality of being creative. Like it allowed me to kind of, go into that space, make something with my hands, and I guess feel like manly, like to kind of to check that box a little bit of like, okay, yeah, I worked with a saw today, okay, I feel like a man, and so that job that I had for close to 20 years just like it just went away. The pandemic shut everything down. I got my layoff notice. They were like, we can't do any theater. Like, there's no way that we're going to be able to do any theater right now, because there's a pandemic. We're not going to pile a bunch of people into a theater to watch a play. This is just not going to happen. And we don't know when the end of this is going to be. And so they just laid me off. And, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back there. I who knows? But that was like a major blow to my, I guess, my sense of like where I was going in terms of my creative path. Like that place was a place that I could come back to and always rely on as a, I guess, a professional home. I could always rely on having some kind of hours there to work, to make some money, to live, and so that completely went away and shook up, my world a bit. And I still had the writing, but without this other creative, outlet in this job, I kind of like went down as I think a lot of us did, this kind of this introspection, maybe borderline depression, about the state of or I guess position in the world, or what you've kind of built your life around. Like, what does that mean? Is it helpful to the world at large? Like, is it really essential? There was the whole debate about essential, non-essential, which is still going on to this day, as like some businesses are staying open and others aren't, and like that's just a whole can of worms that I'm not going to try to get into. But yeah, that really that was really a process that I went through, where I kind of didn't want to do film anymore, and I didn't want to write anymore. I didn't want to do anything creative, because it felt like it was something selfish that I was doing for my own ego, to make myself feel like I was contributing to the world, when I was really just like hiding. I was hiding behind these stories that I was making and not really contributing anything real to the world. And it was really depressing for a moment there. And I've come back around to the fact that, like, not only are stories very useful to the world at large, but it's like now honing in on the types of stories. Because before, I would gravitate towards like a lot of weird stories, or kind of depressive stories, very I guess they call them like postmodern, just like very very stark, post-apocalyptic, just like doing anything possible to kind of like dig into the darkness of the human condition. And I think after a while, it kind of like, you realize that people kind of need to escape from the world sometimes, and that's the reason why we, like a lot of my generation loved Star Wars, and why we loved like the Indiana Jones franchise. Is just like it was just pure adventure with awesome characters that you could aspire to, or at least like if you didn't want to aspire to be like them, you could just look at them and say, wow, that guy, like that character is like an awesome character. And I want to follow them on their adventures, and I want to see like what they do, because they just like even if they don't have it all together, they always land on their feet. And so that need for those kinds of positive stories, I think I missed a bit, and was going down the road of very like depressing stories, for the sake of being depressing, or for the sake of like subverting expectations about certain stories. It's like, hey, I'm gonna take this story that's usually positive, and now I'm gonna twist it to make it negative, and it's like I don't know if people really need that. And I mean, not to say that those aren't useful. I believe that we go through ebbs and flows as a society, and sometimes we need stories that are very uplifting and have characters that are reassuring. And then there's other times when, things are actually pretty good, and we need to have stories that, kind of bring us down a bit or humble us. Which kind of brings me to another part of this year, is that like I felt like not only was I on a process of being humbled, but like 2020 definitely like humbled me to the point of looking around at the fact that media has kind of like narrowed our view on each other. It has narrowed so many of our perspective on how we view life, and we kind of expect that there's going to be good guys and bad guys, when life is nothing like that. Like there are people who everybody has nuances, and to kind of categorize to society into like certain groups, it just like I was having a hard time with that fact, because of the fact that, like, the reason why was because I thought about it and I was like, oh, well, it's because of narratives. It's because of, my generation and the generation before, and have been consuming so much of like film and television that we expect for like, our lives to act like a movie. It's like we want things to change really quickly because we expect that this is at the end of like the second act where there's going to be a reversal. Well, it's like life doesn't work like that. Like the thing that we want may not happen because our life is not a movie. It's not a narrative that unfolds the way that a movie does. And so anyway, I'm kind of babbling a bit, but so having like this very low time in the middle of the year where it's like we were all in lockdown and like a lot of the holidays that we wanted to celebrate with family, we weren't able to celebrate, and it was this upending of all of that. And now we're coming to the end of the year, and our Christmas it felt somewhat normal. We did do a Zoom meeting. It wasn't a meeting, but we had a Zoom hangout with family. We got to talk to. We got to kind of connect. As a family, and we got to open presents, and we got to kind of like make Christmas feel as normal as we could. And now, we're going to go into 2021, and we have, a couple of vaccines that are being rolled out, and this is awesome. And, I finished writing a first draft of another feature film, and that's very exciting. And, the most obvious thing that happened to me was that I committed to doing this podcast, and I had not expected to do that. Like it was not even on my radar. Now, granted, I tried to start a podcast like a couple years ago, but it never seemed to be something that for me. Like I was like, I don't want to do a podcast. I want to make films. Like I want to commit my time to writing and directing films. Like that is what I want to do. I don't want to have this distraction of doing a podcast. But since there was nothing else going on, and a good friend of mine, Sam Vegas, he actually, like in one of the talks we were having during lockdown, he was like, Tim, I really think that you should start a podcast, because I think your perspective on things is, you just seem to have a way of looking at filmmaking that is really interesting, and I think some people would like to hear your perspective on it. And that kind of like it surprised me, and I was just like, wow, really? Because I feel like every single time I have a thought, it's like the most unoriginal thing ever. And I never feel like I have as much insight as other people have, into the process of creating anything. Like I feel like I'm always behind the times. I'm always, racing to catch up with everybody else. And, I still don't know if that's true, but, here we are. This is episode 31, and, we're at the end of 2020, and I've been doing this for 6 months. And I gotta say, I really appreciate everybody who's been listening. Even if you don't listen to this exactly like on the week that I release it, if you listen to it like later on, like years from now, I mean, I appreciate each listener who, takes the time, to just give me a chance. And I really hope that I can bring some insight. I hope that I can connect with you about the process of filmmaking and of writing and everything artistic. I hope I can contribute to this community, and that's all that I can hope for with this entire podcast, or even with the films I make or with anything that I write. It's just that I can bring you guys joy. I can bring some kind of inspiration, that I can bring some kind of like that I can just bring something. Like I don't want to walk away from any project, wasting anybody's time or feeling like I didn't contribute something that is going to be useful to somebody else. And I think that's really what this is all about. Is just sharing, sharing our information, sharing the things that we make, giving people material that they can build upon and make better. And, it's like, that's really the human condition. It's just like, we're just building off of what came before. And if we allow for that to happen, like, we're going to go so much further by doing that. And so anyway, I was hoping that this was going to be a short episode, but it's not really. It's actually quite longer than I anticipated. But once again, I want to say thank you to like each and every one of you out there. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so with that, we're going to go into 2021, and I will continue to release episodes every Monday, unless I find, I'm committing to Monday. That seems to be, the time that I decided on, and, like, you guys will listen to these whenever, and that's fine too. So what else do I have to say? Let me see. I just I'm really hoping for a better 2021. I'm hoping to be more productive, more giving, to commit more to the craft of filmmaking and to writing, to learning more skills, to just doing everything better. Obviously, not being in a pandemic anymore would be awesome, but we'll have to see when we get there. So guys, have a happy new year. Make sure to connect with friends and family if you haven't already. Like, we all need each other at this time. And once again, wear the mask and wash your hands and social distance and all that stuff. And I'm looking forward to the days when we can look back at 2020 and say, man, that was one hell of a year. And I never want to go back to that time. But I guess I'm glad that it was a year that humbled all of us and got all of us to stop and look around and reassess our lives, and to kind of get down to what is actually important when it comes to living this life. And I think it's really just about like getting all the superficial stuff out of the way, and just appreciating one another, helping each other grow, even being stubborn with one another from time to time, and just like appreciating the fact that you're alive and I'm alive, and just doing the best we can with what we have for the benefit of the people around us. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to you next year. Bye. Also, if you haven't done this already, I have a Twitter account for the podcast. It's at title_Tim. And I also have a Facebook page as well, and you can subscribe to that, and I will put episodes up there and any updates. So yeah, come on by, say hi, and till the next one.